Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the BG Independent Podcast. I am your host, Dustin Galish. On this episode, I talked to Susan Montgomery, who's a local author, artist, and musician who's recently self-published a collection of books in various genres, including children's picture books that focus on playing the ukulele, guitar, and piano. She's also a BGSU alum and has a background in art education. So it was a really interesting discussion about her journey and also dealing with aspects of chronic pain and how she's overcome those things over the years. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the BG Independent Podcast. Well, Susan, thank you so much for being here today. For me being here in will be considered your home. So I appreciate you inviting me here to talk. That's one reason why I like doing these podcasts remotely, is because it gives me a reason to get out of my shell and go to different places. I think the first one I did was actually at the Wood County Fair with Julie, who's one of our writers, and we were actually at the fair, and I was like, this is really cool because you could like hear the things going on behind us. But thank you again for inviting me into your home. I'm excited to kind of learn more about your story and sort of why we're here today. So thank you so much.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for being here. It's nice to have people here. And I have kind of a gallery wall of paintings that are very colorful and it's inviting. So it's nice to have you here.
Cool. Well, let's just get right into it. I mean, we're talking in many ways today about you're an author, an illustrator. What really got you into this? You know, you have a bachelor's in art from BGSU, so certainly this is something you've been doing for a long time. But what really led you into children's books, or when did you know you got a story to tell? I guess that's the important thing.
It all started during the pandemic when I had learned to play music for the first time ever. I started with the guitar and then quickly moved on to the ukulele because it was so cute and small. And a few months later, I had really bad carpal tunnel in my left hand, and they told me I couldn't play. And I was heartbroken, and I'm like, there's got to be a way to play the ukulele still. And I looked high and low for music just for one hand, and I couldn't find any. And then I figured out how to improvise and create my own music for one hand. And that became the Ukulele Expression series, which is all music just for one hand. Using different alternate tunings and a capo, you can get all different sounds from the ukulele and create beautiful melodies. So that's really what kicked it off. And then once I got the feel for, putting a book together, the formatting, the story, I realized I had a lot more to say. And I kept going. After that, I published a poetry book, and I kind of hit various genres with everything I wanted to say. And I fell into children's books because I really wanted to do something with my art and the ukulele. I had such a, passion for sharing how much I love the ukulele, and I thought it would be fun to introduce it to kids in an engaging way, in a colorful way, and an educational way. So that's what led me to the series that I'm on now with the Strumming Seahorse and Zoe's Groovy Birthday Gift. And I have one on famous ukulele musicians coming out soon. So it's just been so much fun.
What do you think lends itself for the ukulele to be more accessible? I mean, it has less strings. I'm a musician myself, so there's certain aspects of it that, it has a sound, and again, you can travel with it. It's not this sort of, it can go anywhere with you. And I think what really led you to liking the ukulele outside of its accessibility? Was it an instrument that you were into before, or, had a reference place for it? And it's not an instrument you hear a lot in pop music and things like that, but it has its place for sure.
Yeah. I loved how small it was, and I loved how I could take it with me. And it really made music itself so much more approachable and easy to understand. Suddenly I wasn't afraid of reading sheet music. Mm-hmm. I could read tabs and sheet music and chord sheets, and music just wasn't foreign to me anymore. It wasn't difficult like math.
Yeah, I mean, I myself got into music later in life than most traditional people. I started in like my mid-20s, which for some people that's like, well, that's really late, and sort of, how old were you when you really, I mean, I guess I could figure it out through math, but had you done anything else musically growing up?
No.
Or really, was this your first time really getting into this during COVID?
Yeah, during COVID was my first time. My boyfriend at the time had given me a guitar for my birthday, and I had always wanted to learn how to play, but I thought it was so unattainable. I just thought it's not for me. It's too hard. I can't read music. But then I just tried. I took online lessons through different websites, and it was just amazing to have this whole world of music open up for me.
So when did you really feel like the connection between music and art? Like when did you have like an aha moment when you felt like there was, how can I bridge these two things together? Because they're very separate, and then a lot of times art and music do go together. It's not as though they're foreign to each other. But was there a moment when you felt like, once you sort of, not that you mastered your instrument, but you felt like you had an understanding of it that you could express? How did art sort of play into that? And what's more of your background in art as well, I guess?
Yeah, with my ukulele expressions series, the music for one hand, I combined my paintings with each piece of music. So I set each book to a different theme. The first one is a nature theme, and the melodies are, puddles and Bird Mountain and Spiderweb Lane. And I just created these imaginary places and went on with an ocean theme and a wild animals theme. And my fourth book was actually a lullaby book that I incorporated lyrics with for the first time, and even included like a workbook so people can write their own lullabies. That was a lot of fun. My background in art started, forever. I've been an artist. I've always been painting, and ever since I was little, I was even painting on things I wasn't supposed to. So my parents were really encouraging with my art, and I didn't get into art in school until college here at BGSU, and I actually started in graphic design, and then quickly realized I wanted to teach and switched to art education, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I just loved everything about the classes, about learning so many different mediums and wearing all the different hats, and the kids I loved. So I graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Art Education, and I taught for a short time in the area, and then everything just kind of fell apart suddenly. I had medical issues that just exploded, and that was really hard. It took me out of work, and I hadn't worked for years until just recently. The last few years I was really sick with ulcerative colitis, so I was in my apartment here all the time, and I wrote. I just kept writing and painting and making books, and it was so healing and therapeutic. In fact, that's developed into another book, my memoir, that I've been writing, will be released soon too. But I had surgery last year to take out my colon that essentially cured the ulcerative colitis. But it was a massive surgery, and I even had to have a follow-up surgery this year. So between all that and the pandemic, it was just, at first it was a little hard to be in here all the time, but with the paintings on my wall and just creating everything, it became such a safe haven. I didn't feel like I was stuck here. I felt like it was a great opportunity to be here. Even while I was so sick, I could just create and share it with other people.
Yeah, I mean, that's the therapeutic aspect of art has always been what I think gets most of us to do it. There's the idea of selling it, monetizing it, figuring out a way to make it into a career is always the second thought in many ways. The thing that gets you at the, just sitting at a desk and creating something. I think the pandemic for a lot of us, and your journey as well, like when you deal with something that sort of removes you from your regular routine, like who am I? Like I'm sort of by myself in this isolation, and I think a lot of people have to deal with that too and figure out who they are, what they want to do with their lives. And I think the last few years has been hopefully positive for a lot of people to figure that out. And it seems like for you, that's in many ways is creating a lot of art and expressing yourself. And so you have the thing it's good for you, but then when you have that moment where you feel like I need to get this out and publish this and help children and help other people sort of get ideas, because not all children's books are necessarily made just for kids too. I have a 7-year-old, and I've really grown to appreciate a lot of children's authors and the artwork that's involved, and it's something that when you enjoy as a kid, but then you forget about it until almost until you're older, and you go, wait a second, a lot of this stuff's really cool. It's heavy too. It's not all really surface level stuff. A lot of times you're dealing with concepts that are very serious, which I think is another thing that I like a lot about children's books, that they have a place to not only entertain but also educate too. So let's talk a little bit about how do you get your work out there. When I did some basic research about you and researching your books, you have an Amazon page. There's ways to get access to your work. What was it like to start publishing and just figuring that all out for yourself? Because you're creating, and you had this moment where I need to get this out. Where did you go? Did you just start researching, or was there an individual that you went to that helped you with that process?
Yeah, it started with a lot of research, and I connected with a few people who I knew had put books out there, music books specifically at first, and I kind of just asked around what they did, and I found tons of YouTube videos, but that can be kind of a minefield because there's so much bad information out there. So it took a while to sift through the valuable content that could help me put my book out there. And I found somebody named Dale L. Roberts, who has a self-publishing YouTube channel. He actually went to BGSU years ago, and he put out great content about self-publishing. He's such an advocate for self-publishing, and I learned how to format, how to market, how to just cover designs, how important those are, and I just binge watched videos until I knew what programs to use, how to format my interior, everything. I love the process of putting a book together. So that was really interesting. And then just connecting with communities of authors of other genres too is fascinating. I'm on a Discord channel with people of all genres, fantasy, thrillers, and it's just great to learn from each other, even though we're so different. There's still so many common aspects of self-publishing things we all struggle with, marketing and how to talk about our books and how to do events, and we can just share and feed off of each other. It's great energy.
That's good. That's good to hear. I mean, in some ways, there's so much out there that's like, how do I actually figure out my place in the world? So much there's millions of books. You could probably argue at some point, and where do you find your niche in there? And in some ways, I like the idea of reaching out to other authors. That's something common in a lot of mediums is, reaching out for help. Standing on an island is really tough. You're kind of yelling at nobody is how it can feel like sometimes, and letting people know that your work's out there. So what's been your feedback and just your experience now that you've published quite a few books? What's the positives and negatives that you sort of experienced so far? And I guess what have you really learned from what you've done so far and published?
I've learned that the ukulele is my thing. Even though I've published books in other genres, everything from Christian affirmation books to poetry books, and now my memoir, the ukulele is just really where my heart is and where my future with making more books lies, I think. And it's just something I enjoy so much. Any negatives really are that I have books in so many genres that it can be hard to, focus and market on different ones. Sure. So you kind of have to pick and choose, what's most important to you and what's most important to, my audience. And that's just great.
I mean, it can be tricky to find what your audience is, and then because you're probably trying a lot of different things out initially as an author, and that's probably not super uncommon too, to try to figure out what is your niche, or what am I the best at writing, or what do I enjoy writing the most. So what do you think, why does the ukulele at this point really feel like that's your instrument? Is it because you're sort of, as we're here, kind of surrounded by them, or is it just something that really clicked for you that you felt like this is what inspires me to keep creating? So that's part of it too, right? You gotta have something that inspires you to keep going.
Yeah, it definitely inspires me, not just in playing, but playing with other people now too, and writing about the ukulele. I've been a writer for the Uke Like the Pros blog for a couple years now, based out of San Francisco, and I get assignments each month and write articles, everything about how to make different chords and how to play different songs and how to change strings or what different strings mean. So that's been great. And I also co-founded the local ukulele group here the Bowling Green Regional Ukulele Social Club. And that was so much fun. We've been in existence for a year now, and it's great to meet once a month at least and just play the ukulele with other people. It's very beginner friendly, and it builds such a sense of community. It's just great to get so many people together and just having fun over music and coffee, good coffee.
For sure. But, you know, in meeting with these people in the ukulele community, because we'll call it that in some ways, did you find there's a certain commonality between people? I mean, obviously coming from different backgrounds, but is there something that got you all into the ukulele at first? You know, do you find there's certain music, or was it, in some ways, was it the accessibility of it? Is that what kind of led people to it? And, you know, some people who play like in a traditional 6-string guitar end up playing it as well. And is there some of that as well? Or do you feel like you get that mix of people who came to the ukulele sort of after mastering the guitar in some ways as well?
Some people did come to the ukulele from guitar, and others, you know, maybe they got it for a gift at Christmas time, like especially this Christmas. I'm sure a lot of people got ukuleles, and maybe they don't know how to play, and maybe it's just sitting in a closet right now. But it's just fun to have those people, you know, bring it out. And I love that I could only play 4 chords at first and play hundreds, I mean thousands of songs if you wanted to. Sure. So that was amazing right there, especially with hand issues like I have. I've had surgery on both hands, and they still get quite painful, and I can't do too many fancy things. Sure. I don't have the dexterity, but I can still play some awesome songs just with a few basic chords. I don't have to bar chords. I don't have to do any tricky maneuvers.
No, bar chords are terrible for your hands. No, that's one of the reasons, like I'll be a musician myself. I switched to piano now and played guitar for years. And there was a part where I was like, I don't think I can sustain what it's doing to my hands, you know, where the piano is different, but just a lot of that stress and it's like many guitar players, you almost have to get through, which is almost like a painful part of the process to build up what would be considered strange muscle dexterity, and a lot of it still is damaging. You know, you must just maintain as best you can, you know, which is sort of interesting. With the ukulele, I mean, you can sometimes get away with even like a single finger chord, right? You don't have to necessarily have those 3-4 notes. You can get away with some simpler chord structures, which I thought was also kind of interesting.
Yeah, I was playing Forever Young today by Bob Dylan. It's 3 chords, C, F, and G. It's amazing, and you just strum, and I love finger picking too, but I just love how easy it is, and how accessible it is just to be in the music world now. It's great.
Do you feel like has that sort of lent you to sort of express yourself and doing some more vocal stuff? I mean, there's an element of once you start to play, get familiar with the instrument, to try to sing as well and mix some of that in, and that can be a hard thing for a lot of people, but is that something you started to do and incorporate as well?
Yeah.
Like playing and singing at the same time, it's a whole other world.
Yeah, it really is. I have started singing. In fact, the ukulele group has done a few performances at the community dinner at St. Mark's, and a few of us just did the live nativity at Trinity, where we strummed some carols for an hour and a half. It was really great, but getting used to just singing in general is very new to me. So it's a work in progress there.
No, I'm trying to understand for sure. But it's like just another form of expressing yourself through the instrument. You know what I mean? It's something that was my background as well. It took probably years before I felt comfortable enough to be able to sing while performing. I used to loop music. That's how I got around it. I would just like, oh, it's looping. Now I can sing, and then I'll go back to playing afterwards. And there's a certain point where that's kind of cool, but then the other musicians are like, I think you got to practice more.
I know,
like the looping's really nice, but I think it's helping you get away with not practicing as much as you should be.
It's been great to get constructive feedback, I'll say.
Sure.
So yeah, that's a work in progress, but I love it. I have, you know, ambitions of, you know, playing solo gigs somewhere. I have done an open mic before, actually getting on a stage in front of people. That was huge. So I liked it, but I have to keep working at it and keep practicing to do it more often.
Let's talk a little about you doing the audiobooks. You know, we talked a little, and that's your voice. You know, it's kind of the same vein of there's a performance to that. You want to be clear, have a certain tone. What's it been like, sort of doing that aspect yourself? And is that fun for you? I love when I hear that authors do their own books, because I think that's always important. If you can, not everybody has the ability or the patience to do it. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about what it's meant to you to do the audiobooks for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's something I just got into this year, and I didn't think it was something I could ever do. And again, Dale L. Roberts on his channel, he really outlines the different avenues you can take with self-publishing audiobooks. And I thought, I have the equipment. I know how to use Audacity. I think I can at least try this. And I love reading. But reading's very different from narrating.
Sure.
So again, I looked to YouTube, looked at voice coaches, people who do this professionally, got a lot of tips from them, and just started recording, learned how to pace my words and my sentences and emphasize words. And I love the process of it. And I found out I really like editing too, which is a good trait to have, because sometimes there's a lot of editing that has to happen.
Yeah.
You have to do all the processes to, as you know, to get the audio clear enough and of great quality. And for audiobooks, there is a very strict standard.
Sure.
It has to pass all these different checks of the right loudness level and clarity, everything. And you have to have so many seconds before you start a chapter, and everything has to be cut just right. And I've managed to put 3 audiobooks out now for my children's books. And I'm in the process of editing my memoir that's about 33,000 words. So that one's almost done.
That's good.
That's a long process, because each chapter is about a half an hour of like raw audio, and then I cut that down to about 23 minutes.
Okay.
But it has just been so much fun to be able to narrate my own books. And like you said, I think it's important for authors to do it themselves if they can, because it just gives you more of a connection with the listener. And it gives you a whole new audience to reach, because I know I've been listening to more audiobooks this year. I listen to a lot on Hoopla. I listen to some on Audible. It's great to listen and educate yourself on something while you're cleaning the house.
No, I mean, for me, I feel that space usually with podcasts and things in that vein, but there is, a lot of people, I think when I was at Thanksgiving dinner with my dad, he was walking through our house with his AirPods on. And he's just like, I'm just listening to the new, Geddy Lee, who's the bass player for Rush, his new memoir. He's like, I'm on 4th, 5th chapter now. And it's just it's not as doesn't require as much. You don't have to sit down. You can actually be active and still, it's hard to clean the house while you're reading a book. That would be impressive for someone to do that. But even kids, I like the aspect of kids with audiobooks too. It's just another way for them to experience it. Maybe they read along with it. There's another thing which I never thought of that, because I'm like, the old part of me is like, kids need to read. Don't listen. Oh wait, no, you can read and listen at the same time, and it helps reinforce those things. Like my son was really into subtitles with films and cartoons growing up, and part of me was like, it takes away from the visual. But then I'm like, well, now he reads way better because he has context for what he's consuming, which is really cool as well. Yeah. That was the thing of kids' books. Don't really think about it. We go, actually, that makes a lot of sense to do it that way. And if you can incorporate sound and music and things like that too, there's a lot of things you can do depending on the source material, I would imagine.
Yeah,
as well.
That's another reason I actually started my YouTube channel. Well, I've had a YouTube channel for years, but I've narrowed the focus now more to having it very kid-friendly, and I've put read-alouds and book trailers on there. So I only have 4 videos so far, but more planned. And it's been great to put the read aloud up there of Zoe's Groovy Birthday Gift, a ukulele tale, because it's the exact audio from my audiobook, and it's just a great way to let kids take an inside look at the book. Parents can check out the book before they buy it. They can see everything in there. So that's been a lot of fun. And creating book trailers too is something I just love to do. I love whittling down a book into just a simple message. Sure. Like no more than a minute long, and put my ukulele music with it and make it fun and engaging. It's just a lot of fun to create. Hey,
what's it been like recording yourself, on the instrument, and that recording music is it's so very there's 1,000 mics, there's a ton of places you could put it, there's ways you could EQ. It's almost maddening how much options there are. But do you feel like you've kind of found your sweet spot for how you like to record your ukulele, and what was that process like? Was it take a while to figure that out? It's not a plug and play type of thing where you just...
Yeah, no, and that's still something that's evolving as I grow into different microphones.
Sure.
And different interfaces now with my interface I use with my podcast and audiobook microphone. So it's always evolving, but it can be hard at first, and you just have to try it, listen to it.
That's really the main thing, just listen to it. At some point, if you have a good ear, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, I like that you're doing a lot of this stuff, because a lot of this stuff, you can have an excuse to not do a lot of these things. Like, it's like, I don't want to have to record my own, I have to do all this myself. Like, all I want to do is write a book, you know what I mean? Or, you know what I mean? There's all these other things that go along with it. Do you feel like where you're at now with it, is this kind of where you expected yourself to be, you know, as an author and illustrator at this point, or is this pretty unexpected for you to be in this place?
It has been totally unexpected to be in this place. I never would have thought, I thought I was just going to publish like one ukulele book and share it with my ukulele friends, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And I never thought I would keep going into different genres, and now children's books. I've been a writer for as long as I can remember. Wanted to go to school for journalism at one point, and I even in high school I did my newspaper for all 4 years. I mean, it was great. So writing's just always been with me, and again, it's so therapeutic, and it's just such a privilege to be able to share that with kids and parents and teachers, and now getting out in the community and doing things is a lot of fun. So I love seeing faces light up and seeing this ukulele make this sound, and, you know, with my books, the seahorse coming alive and learning how to play and persevering through challenges.
So let's talk a little bit about some events you have coming up. 'Cause I think, like I say, you're starting to do more community outreach now. You have an event coming up with the Wood County Library. Maybe talk a little bit about what that event is, and have you done events in the past, or is this kind of a start for you to be, especially with the library itself? Have you done any events with them before?
Yeah, the library, this will be my first time with the library. I did an event last month at Grounds for Thought with Zoe's Groovy Birthday Gift, and that was a lot of fun. I read the book, we did a sing-along, and I had extra ukuleles for people to try out, and that will be a similar format to the library event on January 13th. I'll be reading my book from the projector so everybody can see, because it'll be in the big meeting rooms. And I just have a really fun presentation planned with an interactive song and another sing-along. And I'll have some of my kid-friendly ukuleles with me where they can try out and try to strum a C chord, and even have like a solar system ukulele around here somewhere. So that should be a lot of fun. And you know, and it's great for not just kids, obviously, who love the books, but I find that parents and grandparents really enjoy the books too, and like learning about the ukulele, because again, it's not something you see every day. It's something you kind of see made. I actually saw a commercial not too long ago while I was watching football of this commercial that made fun of the ukulele and even tossed it in the fire. And I was horrified. I'm like, oh no, that's such a bad image.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the stigma with the instrument in many ways is more it's just a Hawaiian thing. I think that's probably, if anything, there's just sort of, I mean, for me growing up, you didn't hear a lot of it, and that was sort of the stereotype was just, oh, it's a Hawaiian instrument, which it's not true. It's just a 4-stringed guitar, and there's a lot of uses for it. I mean, so I guess what is sort of the history of the instrument? If we can consolidate it now, could you sort of explain? You know, are you aware of how the ukulele really came to America, or yeah, what has been sort of the arc of the instrument itself?
Yeah, from what I understand, it is native to Hawaii, and Portuguese sailors brought it over there. Okay. And it was actually called a machete at first. Really? So yeah, okay. So the name evolved over time, and because it sounded like it goes so well with a tropical theme. Sure. and Hawaii just picked it up, and then it spread to the mainland, and some great musicians just learned how to do so much with the instrument. That's one of the reasons I've been working on my famous ukulele musicians book, because I just thought, you know, there isn't a book that exists that shows kids anything about these great musicians, you know, living and past musicians. So I wanted to bring that to life, and now that book will be out this month in January.
Oh, really?
So that's exciting. Yeah,
I like that idea.
That's also illustrated.
Okay.
I captured the likeness of each one, and there's some really famous ukulele musicians in the ukulele world who, man, they can play so many different styles of music. They do special effects. I mean, YouTube's full of performances, and I even link to performances via QR codes in the back of the book, so people can check out and listen right away and hear what they sound like.
That's great. I mean, to me, it's like, it's almost in the vein of like a mandolin, you know what I mean? In a sense of where it's smaller, there's less strings, but what can be done with it on a technical side is sometimes just incredible.
Yeah.
To me, it's almost like, I don't know how you do the fingering. You know, it's such a small fretboard to be working with in some ways.
Right.
I'll have to check some of that out. I mean, that's, to me, it's like, being a musician myself, consider myself to be a pretty good historian about music. I couldn't name a single ukulele player to you right now, which I feel kind of bad. Not one, you know, really, you know, maybe someone played it on a record, but it wasn't necessarily their instrument, or, you know, it was used for more production, you know, as a backing, a layer on a track or something. But someone who's truly sort of, I mean, there's one musician who you could recommend. Who would it be, from the sense of the ukulele as a starting point?
Ooh, as far as performances
just
go?
Performance, something which kind of wow you and make you go, wow, I didn't realize that was possible with that instrument.
I'll actually give two, maybe three.
2 or 3 is fine.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Jake Shimabukuro is phenomenal. His version of My Guitar Gently Weeps has, I think, like 10 million views on YouTube or something. It's amazing. And Tamaine Gardner, she has been playing since she was like 6 years old. And she's just amazing. Her fingers just fly across the ukulele. And she plays all styles of music. And James Hill is the other one who's just fantastic. He does a lot of special effects with the ukulele, and does a lot of percussive things and turns it into a drum.
Sure.
He's played it with a comb before. I mean, chopsticks, everything.
Just to get different tones. And
yeah,
that's really cool.
It is so much fun, and they're such great performers too. I mean, they're just very entertaining, and they're all very educational. But each one of those are featured in my book too. So,
great.
Yeah.
Well, Susan, I think we kind of covered it all. No, I think it's a good place to end. I appreciate you wanting to talk, and you know, I think I have a good jumping point now to kind of learn a little more about the ukulele as well than I did before talking to you. So thank you for that.
Great, yeah. And our ukulele club meets usually the first Saturday of the month at Novel Blends. We have a Facebook page, Bowling Green Regional Ukulele Social Club. And my books are on my website at createdbysusan.com. So you can find everything out there.
Great. Well, I appreciate you doing this, and I look forward to seeing what you're up to more over the year. So
great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. BG Independent News is made possible with support from people like you. Help keep news in Bowling Green free and accessible to everyone by becoming a contributor today. Visit bgindependentmedia.org/support to help Bowling Green's best source for local news, arts coverage, reviews, opinions, campus information, and community updates.